you own your own business or thinking about starting a business, this podcast is definitely for you. We're going to find out if owning your own business is a blessing or a curse. And Laura's going to help us find out today. Laura, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So Lora DiFranco owns Free Period Press, right?
Yes.
Okay. I know you have a strong online presence. I went to it. You have a lot of cool products, et cetera. So let me know, what is that? What do you do?
Sure. Yeah. We're a small publishing company based here in Cleveland. We publish all things related to self-care and what we think means living a good life. So it started because, in our society these days, it's all about pressure around work and success and what we think of as success. But really, what is the most meaningful in our lives is all about family and friends and, personal growth. And so we try to make products to help people remember to focus on what's actually important to them and not get caught up in the rat race.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because so many of us do get caught up in the rat race.
For sure.
But you have your own business too, and that in itself can be a rat race. So what is that? Why did you start it? Was it just simply because you noticed that people were just stressed out all the time about certain things? Yeah. And how did you come up with the products that you sell?
Yeah, it came about so gradually. It was just one product at a time. It started 10 years ago now with our very first coloring book, back when adult coloring books were kind of all the rage. We were one of the first ones. And, I was kind of new, freshly graduated from college and into the workforce. And I was like, man, I could just really use a way to relax at the end of the day with friends and feel creative again after, feeling like an adult, but still wanting to have that creative outlet. And so I had a few artist friends that I reached out to and said, hey, do you want to make this coloring book? I would have friends over and we would call them craft nights. And we would just come over after work and just color and collage and just do something to feel a little bit creative. So that's where it started and kind of grew from there.
Well, I'll tell you, even at my age, never feel like an adult.
Yeah.
Because we don't have to grow up to a certain degree. And so you started this, was it kind of just a hobby, part-time? And then how did it roll into a full-time gig?
Yeah, it started very much as a passion project. I never thought it was going to be a full-time thing. I thought it would always just be my creative outlet. So our first coloring books, we started actually with a Kickstarter campaign. It was a crowdfunding campaign where we had this idea, we made the video, we put it out there, and we had people pledge, buy copies before they were even printed to say, is this a good idea or not? And that way we raised almost $13,000 for that first print run.
Oh, great. Yeah.
And so it was really a cool start to get people's buy-in first and kind of grow this community. And from there, it was just product by product. After a couple of coloring books, we made our habit calendar, which is all about tracking the small things that you do every day that make a big difference in your life. So maybe it's, reading for 15 minutes a day, or even something as simple as wash the dishes before you go to bed,
Right.
Those little things.
Yeah.
So we did a couple of Kickstarter campaigns for those first products as we were kind of getting off the ground.
Okay.
And yeah, it grew from there.
So you certainly evolved from coloring books for those and things like that to now. Do you have some samples of some of the publishing you do now that's available for you?
Yeah.
Let's see them. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. So I brought in a couple of our Cleveland specific guides. So first we came out with the Cleveland Metro Parks mini guide, which encourages you, we have such a great park system in Cleveland, encourages you to check out all 18 Metro Parks reservations. That was such a hit that then we did one for the Cuyahoga Valley National Park down in Peninsula.
And is it like a checklist inside?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I'm just curious what's in.
It features different trails and kind of gives you an introduction to each one.
Okay.
And some tips about, where to enter and what you can expect from each trail, the difficulty and all that kind of stuff. So just encouraging you to explore, especially with your friends and family. If, getting out in nature is so good for you. Yeah. We don't do enough of it. But so sometimes it's I know I'm a big list person, that you will see that in a lot of our products. I love a good checklist. So sometimes, just having that list encourages you to get out of your comfort zone a little bit.
Okay, good.
And then the same we kind of went from nature to restaurants, and, Cleveland has an amazing restaurant
Now you
scene.
got me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So we partnered with Doug Tratner from the Cleveland scene to curate a list of 16 lists of different restaurant kind of categories. So we got sandwiches and seafood and steaks and vegan and vegetarian, the best of Cleveland. I know I'm guilty. I'm an East Sider. It takes a lot to get me to go to the West Side. And so, but having that checklist to encourage me to explore all of the amazing restaurants that Cleveland has.
And I agree because, myself and my wife and friends, we like to explore different places, new places. I love the idea it's a checklist too, because you don't know where to go, but you've made it easy. Let's just go to these 12 places and then let's go to this category, these 12 places. That's a fantastic piece.
Oh, yeah. And especially with the different categories, I love a good breakfast spot. And so, I've been to almost all of these breakfast spots first and, but there are other ones that I'm not so fond of that, are not so high on the list.
Well, if you know and want to check them out, I can be that person for you, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And then you have one other one. What is that one?
Yeah. So then most recently, just in December, we came out with the Cleveland Playground Pocket Guide. And this is more for families. The tagline is do fun things with people you love. So there are some really cool, back when I was a kid, playgrounds were just swing sets and slides, but now there are playgrounds that are shaped like crazy dragons, and they're really cool. And so this is a guide to all of the coolest playgrounds in the Cleveland area too.
Well, when I was a kid, it was go jump over the rock.
Yeah, that's
then swing sets came along.
Still a good time.
So you have all these wonderful products. You have the online presence. Who helps you publish it? Are these your ideas, or do you work with other people to do so?
Yeah, it's definitely a group effort. And that's one of my favorite things about owning a business is all of the cool people you get to meet and collaborate with, because I'm not an artist or a designer. So I come up with the concepts, but then I have kind of a team of freelancers and artists and graphic designers that help me kind of bring it to life. And what's cool about that is that they always bring such creative energy to it. It's always cooler than I could even imagine the initial idea. So same goes with writers. We have, writers that we work with, artists, and then we have a bunch of printing partners too. So all based in Cleveland. Yeah. So it's definitely, they say it takes a village to raise a kid, but it also takes a village to own a business.
Right.
You can't do it all by yourself.
It really does.
Yeah.
Do you have any, speaking of village, do you have business partners at all, or you're the sole proprietor?
I'm the sole proprietor. We have a studio manager, Amber Esner, who she kind of takes care of filling the orders and doing all the customer service stuff. And now she's kind of entering into doing more of the marketing stuff. So she's also a local artist too. So she's great.
And what got you to take the leap of faith to go full time though? I mean, that's a big leap of faith.
Yeah. That's something that I think about a lot, because you think about business owners. I feel like the message out there is that business owners are risk takers, but I am the least risky person out there. Yeah. So I owned Free Period for 7 years before I went full time. And I was just, trying to grow it slowly until I was really confident that maybe I couldn't replace my full-time salary, but I was getting pretty close to feeling secure enough that I could make the leap and go full-time. Yeah. Granted, I did that in January of 2020, and then the pandemic happened. So it was an interesting time for sure. Yeah.
Well, and I guess there was nothing great about the time, but the timing for you was that people were at home anyway, home-based businesses, and people working out of the home. So you had a little more time to do that. And I think that what you explained in terms of how you went about it is going to resonate with some of our viewers and listeners, because there's always this thought. I could tell you there's many people go, you dive in or it's not worth it, et cetera. There's no way you're going to be successful at it. And there's others who need to dip their toe in it and just have that sense of, confidence and the fact that they can even support themselves before they get into it. So, but once you're in it, you're in it. So, so I'm going to ask the question now.
Yes,
and that question is, owning your own business, has it been a blessing or a curse for you?
For me, it's such a blessing.
Okay.
With a big asterisk of of course, it's so hard, but to me, there's nothing that beats, getting to make my own schedule, getting to make the products that I want to make in the world, getting to partner with, very cool people. And just the freedom and flexibility that it brings. It's the best. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
So we know that, it's not always bliss.
Yeah.
There's always challenges in business. What makes you at any point say, why did I do this? Why don't I just keep my job and do this part-time?
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, I feel like, the products are always so fun to make, but I would say that it's the money side of things. That's always just so challenging to be like, to know what to invest in, to know, to keep on top of your cash flow. It's like the very unsexy stuff about business. We want to talk about, the marketing, the products that we're doing, but really like knowing your numbers and, being really solid in your financials. It took me a long time to learn that. I think that's part of why it took me so long to go full time. It's a lot, and I have my MBA too, but there's something different about the theoretical versus the applied of like keeping track of your money and making sure that you're like feeling on solid financial footing.
Yeah, there's definitely a big difference between learning from a book and a course than it is being out there. And all of a sudden a bill comes, you're like, oh, how am I going to take care of this? But you have some hard costs then. So do you keep these items in inventory, and how do you do your distribution of these items?
Yeah, we do. So we do all of our inventory. We hold all of our inventory at our warehouse in Midtown, and we have a few different distribution channels. So I would say we have a couple of products that we sell through Amazon, and that's done really well for us. Then we sell a lot through our wholesale channel. So a lot of independent bookstores and gift shops and boutiques carry our lines, especially here in Cleveland. Almost all of the kind of independent bookstores carry our stuff. Then we have our own website, of course. So those are the three main ones.
Okay. And how did you, for those who are just trying to learn, how did you cultivate those relationships? Like, how did you start to understand how to use Amazon as a distribution source and the bookstores? How did you cultivate that?
Yeah, I don't know if this is common with the people you talk to, but the University of Google, I feel like I listen to so many podcasts, so many YouTube videos, so many blog posts. There's so much good free resources out there that is really where you start with, because this stuff changes so fast that you can't learn it from a book because it changes too fast. Yeah. So you really have to keep up with like the latest, truly every 6 months things are like turned upside down.
Like the Kais Small Business Podcast series.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
There's a source right there. Yeah. Right. When you when you have challenges, you're trying to make a decision at what direction the company is going to go to, or even products you're going to sell. Who do you turn to? Do you have a group of advisors or people you rely on? How do you get advice? Yeah,
like I said, it takes a village. And so I think it's so easy as a business owner to get stuck in your head and like kind of going in circles with like different ideas. Should I do this or that? And so I have really spent a lot of time cultivating relationships to help me think through some of those things. So there are a couple of business owner friends that I can just be really transparent with and be like, hey, this is what's going on in the business. What do you think? They're in completely different industries, so it's nice to get like an outside perspective sometimes. So I think that is really important for other business owners to have those business owner friendships that they can kind of talk to. And then I haven't been shy about just hiring business coaches. It's important to know what your strengths are and where your weaknesses are, and not be afraid to ask for help when you need it. So I would say those two have been really important. And then, family and friends too, just for that like stress relief. Yeah. It's hard when you don't have as many coworkers. Like you need to have that kind of release to vent. I think this might be the first time we've touched upon business coaches, because, a lot of people do turn to peers or other people in business. But you've used formal coaches, business coaches who've walked you through, some of the challenges of business. And really, so what do they focus on? How do they help you? Yeah. I've worked with a couple of different people that have different levels of expertise, which I think is really important because, I have one woman, Jen Margolis, she's in Cleveland. She's great. She's more of kind of like that leadership management person. I was never a manager when I was working full time for someone else. And so I don't have those skills of, so learning how to kind of like step into my own leadership role. Then there's other folks that are, as I'm growing kind of the e-commerce website side of things, that's so technical, things are changing so fast that it's really hard to stay up to date. So I have another coach that's kind of helps me through like takes an honest look at my website and say like, all right, what's going on? What do we need to change? How can we, what should the marketing plan be? And just having those outside perspectives, I think really help.
Do you have a specific person you work for that part?
Yeah. I'm just starting to work with them, but her name is Janine Malone, and her company I think is called Feel Good Retail.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And that's really, how did you know to turn to them? I mean, you didn't just wake up one day and go, I need a business coach. You had to know kind of what they do. Who pointed you in that direction?
Yeah. So Jen was a friend for a long time. And so she was already someone that I was turning to for advice. And it kind of just became more formal as I needed more help. And then there are just times where, like I said, I just get stuck in my head. And so I was just like, I need to like map this out, and I need an outside perspective. And I'm someone who really values like an expert's opinion, you know, like I'm kind of looking for like, what should I do here? And so just when I'm feeling like a little bit lost in the weeds, someone to help me like get some perspective, I think is so helpful.
So Lora, some people who've been around for a while, especially, who are a little more stringent in the way they look at business. I know myself, I've always thought, hey, why would I need a business coach? I mean, I can think through things myself. I have a networking group. I have people who are in business. They're my coaches. So why would I need a business coach?
Yeah, I've been there too, because when I started, you have your vision, you're kind of stubborn that you're like, this is the way I want to do things. And then I think it was another business podcast that I was listening to that was saying, LeBron James has several coaches. Michael Jordan has a coach. All these people have coaches supporting them. And what makes you think that you are any different, that you have all the answers yourself and don't need those different perspectives? And I was like, that is so true. There's so much that you don't know, and there's stuff that you don't even know that you don't know. So just getting those outside perspectives from experts with different life experiences and business experiences, I think is so helpful.
I am really happy you touched upon that, because I guarantee you there are going to be people who are watching and listening who have thought about going that route with a business coach, or who are also kind of stuck in the weeds and don't know where to go. And that's a viable solution for you. Or for them as well too. So I'm glad you share that. We hadn't had anyone who actually utilized one. It sounds like it works for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Good. Yeah. So you're stuck in the weeds.
Yeah.
You're stuck in the weeds.
Here we are.
And you don't know what to turn, and you turn to business coaches, turn to other people. What brings you out of it, though? Like, what occurs that makes you really say, I am so glad I did this?
Yeah. I think for a long time, I was stuck in the weeds. And I would say recently, it's been really getting back to the core of what we're doing and the why of why we're doing it. I think talking to customers one-on-one and just seeing like how our products have helped them, or getting back to the root of like why I started Free Period. And it's really to help people slow down and enjoy life. And honestly, I think this is true with a lot of people. They create the businesses that they need for themselves. And like, I for sure need to slow down and like remember, the important things in life too. And so it's for me, it's really connecting with customers that helps. You're right. We all need to slow down. That's great advice, because, we've had other people on the show who are like, don't stop until you get it. Don't stop. Yeah.
And there's always a balance between work-life balance. You can have the most successful career or company in the world, but if you're not happy, or you don't have things in life that are important to you, why do it? So I think that's great what you're doing, and the reason behind it too that motivates you.
Yeah, thanks.
So from a financial standpoint too, it gets tough.
Yeah.
You carry inventory and those type of things. How do you work your way through those pieces? Are you really managing? Are you at the point where you can manage the amount of inventory that you bring in? Do you have data that helps you make that analysis?
Yeah. We're pretty. I mean, if you saw the number of spreadsheets that I have going at once, just to keep track of what inventory we have, when we need to reorder, the cash flow part of the inventory piece is really important. So making sure we have enough set aside to reorder materials. But I would say from a financial point of view, it's really just having those systems in place. I don't know if you've heard of a business, but I'm a big business book reader too, a book called Profit First. It's kind of a book about how to manage the finances of your business so that you're putting things aside for what you need. So the big lesson there was like, put money aside for inventory because you know that big bill is coming, and so you got to save for it. So there are things like that that have really helped me. But yeah, I mean, and I have a great bookkeeper accountant too that really helps me keep on top of how the margins are looking and all that good stuff.
So I'm going to ask you, not where do you think you'll be? Because I'm pretty confident talking to you now, you will be there. So where will you be 2-3 years down the road? Where you and your company, where will it be at?
Yeah, it's funny because I think the trajectory is you expect all businesses to grow, right? Grow or die. But I'm happy to be a lifestyle business. I would love to grow Free Period to the point where things are a little more, maybe I have a couple more employees that I can delegate to. So a little more is off my plate, especially as I'm growing my own family, I have a 2-year-old at home. So, definitely want to be spending time with him. And so I think growing my team so that maybe we have a couple more people to do maybe some marketing, focus on operations. But really, I like the idea of staying small and staying, I don't want to grow so big that I'm not doing the work. Yeah. So that's kind of where I see us going. Definitely creating more products that help people slow down and focus on what's important to them. But yeah, that's kind of where I see it happening.
So when you are not working, what do you like to do? Because everything you do is, even researching places leisurely becomes work when you think about it.
Oh, totally.
So what do you do when you're not working? Or are you always you have the company in the back of your mind?
Yeah, I think that's really important for boundaries to try to turn it off as hard as it is. But little things little habits I have, I will close my laptop and put it in my office and close the door, not even just not having my laptop on the kitchen counter or things like that I think make a really big difference. So, and I think it is really important to cultivate those hobbies because, if you don't have something else going on, your business and your work will take up as much time as you give it.
Yeah.
And so it's important to schedule those other things, whether it's hanging out with friends. I do still love crafting, and I've gotten into embroidery and collaging and just those kinds of crafts. I love baking. I love reading for pleasure. I'm trying to go through all of Jane Austen's novels right now, and that is its own feat, I feel like.
Yeah.
So, I'm kind of, like I said, a checklist person. So I'm all right, what's the hobby checklist? And that kind of helps me kind of stay balanced and stay grounded.
And that's really neat. And it's, especially compared to those who I know who their phone's going off, their laptop's going off, their phone's going off. They got some bat signal coming too. Anything to notify them that, hey, we got to deal with this at the time. So, that's really neat to know that you have been able to kind of separate those things, and have that work-life balance in a sense.
Not always perfect, but I try.
So if someone approached you and said, hey, I'm really starting to think about getting into business myself and understanding the path you took to get to where you are now, what advice would you give them?
I think it's so important to know yourself and know what your strengths and weaknesses are, because I think any advice I would give someone, it would be to know what you want to get out of it. Like I said, I was really slow and not taking big risks in starting my business. And so I would tend to give that advice to someone else, but maybe they're a big risk taker and maybe that works for them.
Yeah.
So it really is about knowing yourself, knowing your strengths and weaknesses, knowing what lights you up, and knowing what you do want to do in your business, what you don't want to do, and getting support for those things that you want to ignore, because if you ignore them, they'll come back to bite you.
Right, exactly.
So I feel like it takes a lot of self-reflection.
Yeah.
But it can be really overwhelming to start a business. Especially at the beginning when you're wearing all the hats, you're making the products, you're doing the marketing, you're answering the customer service emails. So it's really, they talk about the minimal viable product. What's the smallest step that you can take to move the business forward, and try not to get overwhelmed by the millions of things that you could be doing. But what are the few things that you can focus on to move the needle, to see if it's a viable business in the first place?
And then accumulate your wins, which is good, and have a great product. So I'm going to ask you to hold it up one more time.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, and so
Thanks.
if people are interested in, finding out more about your products, or, of course, you're publishing. What's the website again to get to?
The website is freeperiodpress.com.
Okay, good. Well, I thank you very much for coming on the podcast. It was a great conversation. I think people are really going to enjoy the conversation we had. And you just keep doing what you're doing. I'm sure you're going to be back on in 5 more years with
a lot more products.
With a lot. No, you have great products. I was speaking of that. I actually when I went to your website to take a look at it.
Yeah.
I was amazed at how many cool products you actually did have. So I really do hope that people go take a look at it and do business with you. All right.
Thanks, Wayne. It was so great talking to you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, if you like this episode, don't forget to comment, like, and share.
This podcast was made possible with the support of our sponsors. Find more ways to grow at kieast.org.